Welcome back to the fantasy-filled world that is the Nerdcast with my new co-host Omar. How you doing, Omar?
I am doing
So you're an RPG nerd, huh?
mostly for the video game variety, but yeah, lately.
What do you think of TRPGs, tabletop?
A lot of fun when done right, and I've had the very good fortune of not having them done incorrectly yet. I've been running mostly Pathfinder sessions and only your D&D, and I've been finding Pathfinder to be an incredibly in-depth and engaging system.
What's your take on 5e?
Very nice, but a little simpler than I'm looking for.
All right, so what's your take on me as a DM? This is me gloating my own ego.
Story-wise, you make great stories, honestly. You paint the picture of the locations very well, and you do have some pretty nice NPCs that you do very well characterizing. The only issue that I've got, that I think most people have as well, is that things are a little too easy.
Working on it. What's your take on home? What do you like more, homebrew or pre-made?
Depends on the situation. Homebrews have a lot of room for things to get really interesting depending on the GM because they can change things up as they see fit because it's their own story. But pre-made stories are very nice for a concise story that has a general direction that's already determined.
Right. Have you played the Pathfinder video games?
I played Kingmaker, not the biggest fan of it. I played it in the turn-based mode because I don't like playing real times.
Yeah.
And I found it to be sort of lacking.
What about Wrath of the Righteous?
No, I haven't played that one. I didn't like Kingmaker. I got Kingmaker for free on Epic Games when they offered it for free forever ago.
Yeah.
I didn't like playing it, so I never got the other one.
Right. What's your favorite D&D race to play as?
Depends on if I'm playing in a D&D game like Baldur's Gate 3 or if I'm playing just in general. But I have been finding that half elves are pretty fucking nice.
Tieflings.
Tieflings are nice too, but I'm finding half elves are a little nicer just in the role playing aspect at least. I like the role playing of it.
What's your favorite fantasy setting and that you play in TRPGs lately? That's not homebrew.
So, I don't play non-homebrews. The only non-homebrew that I got is a winter sort of situation. That's it.
What's your take on homebrew? What's your favorite homebrew setting you ever played in?
Currently, I've got 3 or so homebrew settings, one is in this homebrewed city of Necra, which is the last city basically that hasn't been what's the word? Attacked basically by a cult of people worshiping the light.
Okay.
And it's a city that has basically magic is magic. There is no evil magic. There is no good magic. So you can do necromancy if you want. That's fine. Just it just depends on the person using it. I've got another setting that's we're in a lot of different areas. Last I remember, we were in the orc homeland.
Yeah, the far north. Yeah.
Because of the fact that we were trying to deal with a city that was basically overrun with necromancers and vampires and a lot.
Yeah.
And that one's pretty nice. It's a very interesting setting. And the last one, which is another 2E, I think. Hold on.
Right.
No, the last one's yours, actually.
And what do you think? Is my setting visual, in your opinion?
Visual?
Yeah, is it very vivid?
Yeah, you paint a pretty nice picture of it.
Yeah. What's your favorite? Okay, so if there's a role-playing game you'd recommend to people, what would it be? What role-playing system would you recommend?
System of TTRPGs?
Yeah.
I can't recommend Pathfinder for a beginner because it is hell to understand and get into.
Yeah.
But I can say that if you're interested in tabletops and you want to get started, 5e is your best bet.
Yeah.
Because it's a very simple system with very simple mechanics.
Right.
That can be easily understood, but can also expand very, very vastly depending on who's running as a GM and what the players themselves are doing.
Now, I heard you're trying out Cyberpunk pretty soon.
I do hope to play the Cyberpunk tabletops as well.
With Munch.
Yes.
Former co-host of mine. We shall not speak his name. He is an eldritch horror.
He is a character, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, but Cyberpunk, he runs a good game. Are you excited to play Cyberpunk? And what do you think of that system?
I very much am excited to see what the Cyberpunk system functions as. I do like just the fact that for the Cyberpunk systems lore behind it, with the fact that if I remember correctly, at least in Cyberpunk Red or 2020 or something like that, the CEO of Militech was a cat girl, which is honestly hilarious. But yeah, it's interesting to like look at like lore wise, and I'm interested to see just what the systems are like because I tried to like get into it and it looked really confusing. So I'm hoping like when it comes down to it, Munchie can help me figure things out a bit more.
Yeah. What's your opinion on the cyberpunk world? Does it look amazing?
It's one of the most interesting in my opinion. Now I will say that like here's the thing with Cyberpunk, right? Is that it only really has one competition with Shadowrun.
Yeah.
Shadowrun conceptually is a far more interesting concept because it's
It's
cyberpunk plus
with
magic
fantasy.
and fantasy.
Yeah, if it works.
But unfortunately, it ends up being where cyberpunk is in practice the far more like interesting setting because of the fact that like you have so much that you can work with, and the pre-made stories tend to be a lot more interesting than the pre-made stories for Shadowrun, as far as I've seen.
No, could you ever see yourself being a game master?
I do want to, yeah.
I could teach
I've
you.
played a little bit of like as a game master one time a long time ago, for like a single session that ended up like being our only session, unfortunately, because college started up for me.
Right. What's your taking Critical Role?
I haven't watched it.
Really?
I haven't listened to the podcast. Haven't watched the shows relating. Nothing. The only thing that I watched D&D related, which I haven't watched in a little while, is Brett Ultima's IOverse stuff. Specifically, which one was it? It was the one with the Shadow Hunters or something like that.
Yeah.
That one I
Yeah,
find
yeah.
super interesting with Cheech, I think it was, or whatever.
Yep.
The what's it called? The sniper lady, the literal like speed addict with the whip.
Yep.
The literal cyber robot man. And just the human guy.
Right.
That setting. Oh, and the little raccoon with a staff that is powered by alcohol.
Have you ever heard of Starfinder?
I've heard of the system. Actually,
A
I
space
completely forgot about that.
Pathfinder, a space D&D that's not Warhammer 40K.
Yeah, I've heard it, actually. I forgot to actually remember that one. Someone in the Discord server for my friends, like what's it called? Shadows over Irisin or something like that.
Yeah.
Campaign is also found a Starfinder like one shot for beginners that he's also going to run, and he asked if anyone wants to join in, and I said hell yeah, I'd join in that.
Yeah.
So I might actually be trying out the Starfinder shit too.
And then there's the D&D version of Starfinders. What's it called? It's where they're like it's like a space multiverse D&D game. Spelljammer.
I've not heard of that one, but
So
that sounds interesting.
so
too.
imagine this. You know how the D&D is a multiverse? There's all these different realms and like
I wouldn't call it a multiverse in the traditional sense, but it's got lots of dimensions, yeah.
world trees, stuff like that. Like yeah, Forgotten Realms, you have Dragonlance, and these are like
Yeah.
this is a way of exploring the multiverse of D&D in a fun way. You can go from Kryn to Forgotten Realms by taking this magical like you know Treasure Planet.
Yes, I know Treasure Planet.
Imagine that, but with D&D.
Interesting.
And you travel this interdimensional astral sea, battling pirates, demons, space sea monsters, and you...
Sounds like Sunless Skies. Have you ever heard of that game?
Yeah, I have.
Sunless Skies and its little brother that released a long time before it, Sunless Seas, which both stem from a Flash game called something London. Fallen London or something like that.
Yeah.
Sunless Skies is basically set in like a fantasy space with like eldritch monsters and things beyond your comprehension, but also just standard things that you do understand.
Yeah.
Like the spaceships are literal steam engine ships. The what's it called? Like the ports are just literally Victorian cities, all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
So what's your take? What's your favorite Dean fantasy world for its lore?
For its lore?
TRPG for its lore.
Well, see, here's the thing. I don't have much information on these yet.
By lore, I mean world to have fun in. World to explore and have fun in.
Well, see, so far I've only done like homebrews, and I haven't actually experienced basically any actual like stories that in the actual worlds of these like tabletops. I would love to at some point, but until then, I really don't have an opinion on that.
How would you describe Shadowrun?
Shadowrun is basically, if we're talking about like the tabletop,
Yeah,
which I don't know much about the mechanics of the tabletop.
but we're talking about
if I were going to talk about like the setting of it, think of a like dystopian future where obviously there are corporations that run practically everything everywhere.
Right. Super
And
capitalism.
You've got a lot of like what's it called? A lot of the standard practices of a cyberpunk world, where there's cyberware that you can get, but there's a limit on that
Right, right.
cyberware. But there's that limit is separate from the limit that's in Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk's limit is that you will lose your humanity and go crazy.
Yeah.
In Shadowrun, you will lose your very soul and stop existing, basically, and a shell will be in your place.
And there's elves, orcs.
Elves, orcs, trolls, human, dwarves are the 5 races that I know of.
Right.
There are a couple more, I think, but I'm not entirely sure because I've only ever played the video game.
Have you ever seen the D&D movie?
No. I haven't seen the new one, haven't seen the old one.
Don't watch the old one. It's so bad, it's good.
That's the best part of the old movies. I liked the Mortal Kombat movie for that exact reason.
Yeah, the D&D movie from the 90s, it's a perfect example of your first homebrew, okay? That's what kind of a movie it
That
is.
sounds awesome. But anyhow, like for Shadowrun, I do enjoy the fact that it is a mixture of fantasy and of what's
Right.
it called? Cyberpunk.
yeah.
Where you have the corps doing everything they can to get money, but also using magic to get to that point.
Yeah.
And because magic is involved, you get a lot of cult-like things, like in the Shadowrun games and Shadowrun Returns, the first of the trilogy. You have a whole cult of shamans who have like an insect as their totem, which a totem basically means you embody all of the aspects of that creature, right?
Right.
So if you embody like a wolf, you're loyal, you're you're a pack kind of person, but you're also ferocious, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
The good and the bad.
Yeah.
When you embody the the aspects of an insect, you are basically a plague upon the world.
Right.
And the entire city of, I think it was Chicago in the first game, basically has to like get entirely evacuated and sanitized because there are like abominations under the city because of a cult's like actions.
Now, speaking of plagues upon humanity, Nurgle, what's your take on the Warhammer role-playing games?
Haven't played them. I feel like I can't get into them. There's far too much to know about the world of it.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
far too many like the demons, and then the Necrons, and then the
Tyranids.
Adeptus Mechanicus, the Tyranids, the Orcs, the Elves, the Chaos Gods.
Praise Slanesh.
So what's it? No,
Praise Slanesh.
no,
Praise Slanesh.
no. Anyhow, the what's it called? What were they? The ones that the Chaos Gods want to kill?
Oh, the Eldar?
That.
Space Elves.
More and more and more. There's just far too much like things to get included in, including the different factions within humanity, like the Salamanders or the Chaos
Inquisition.
guys or the Inquisition.
You know,
or
there's
the
enti-
Blue Space
you know-
Marines. Blah blah blah. There's so much to get into that I just physically do not.
I would
want
recommend playing Rogue Trader before you get into 40K.
If I could
role-playing.
play Rogue Trader, that'd be cool as hell. But there's so much to get into that I just sort of I'm trying to avoid it entirely because I don't want to
Right.
have the headache of trying to learn all the lore.
I would also recommend Wrath of the Righteous. That game is great.
Pathfinder, Wrath of the Righteous.
You lead a crusade against the demon apocalypse.
Doesn't it end up being another city builder just like Kingmaker?
No, more like an army builder.
I don't like those either.
You lead a holy crusade against the demon hordes of the abyss.
Damn, that sounds like a lot of paperwork. I'm good.
Praise Moloch Ball.
Die.
Praise Moloch Ball.
Die instantaneously.
Praise Moloch Ball.
No, the actual worst option. Choose
Okay.
Mehrunes Dagon or Azura or friggin' Meridia.
I would ship Moloch Ball and Slanesh.
Die instantly. You don't even have the proper setup. That's just the worst. You are the wrong.
Okay. What's something you would say about role playing games when transitions? What do you think is superior, TRPG or video game RPGs?
No such thing as superior when you're talking about two different types of things.
Okay. What do you like better?
I like video games a lot. I like tabletops a lot. I don't like either of them more than the other. Because tabletops offer me a freedom that I am not allowed in most video games. But you know what video games allow me?
What?
The ability to see and directly influence.
It's called imagination.
Yeah, nice imagination, but unfortunately, when I think of my character blowing up a wall in a tabletop, yeah, I can image that, but it's a rough image. When I see my character blow up a wall in a game,
Right,
I can
right.
see it.
Okay. So when it comes to what would you recommend for people getting into TRPGs for the first time? How would you recommend they go about it?
I would recommend if you've got a friend who's already into it, get them to DM you because they'll know the systems a lot more than you do.
Yeah.
If you don't and you have a group of friends that you want to play with, look online, ask around, ask if people want to are willing to DM first timers basically. If there are, great. If there
Roll20.
aren't, then using Roll20 is obviously a really good website for if you want a free alternative, or if you have the money. It's, I think, a one-time purchase for only the DM to buy, what was it called?
Right.
The Forge or something like that.
Yeah.
Which is really a good option. But, like, end of the day, I just recommend if you can't find a DM who's going to help you and you want to play D&D with your friends, it's going to be rough, but it's possible to just learn DMing on your own. I've done it. I'm not the best DM yet. I've only ever DM'd one session. But I can imagine that it would be not too difficult if you have the willpower to get through.
Now we get to the me of the story. World of Darkness. How do you feel about it?
Never heard of it.
Vampire the Masquerade?
Oh, the only Vampire the Masquerade I know is Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines because of the game. Played part of it. I got to like the city when you get to like the second major area.
Right.
I think Santa Monica.
Well, you know what's unique about World of Darkness? It takes place in the real world, and the whole thing, it relies on the game masters to actually have a knowledge of the cities and towns they're in to such a degree that it's like an alternate, it's like you're literally in this, like if you were in Masson, if I was a storyteller for World of Darkness, MATC would exist. All the shit in Masson would exist, you know?
It feels...
But there'd be a hidden underbelly. I would know the dark places of the city. There'd be cults, vampire cults at the Crucible. There'd be a hunter's lodge hunting down magical beast at a local hunting store on the outskirts of town. There'd be a magical sorcerer circle in the UW of Madison or the Masonic Temple.
I would believe that there's already a sorcerer's circle in UW. The shit's so expensive. They're probably using that money to like fund like eldritch horrors, dude.
Have you heard of Call of Cthulhu?
The game or
the game
story?
The game.
I heard it's garbage.
I'm talking about the role-playing system.
Oh, no, I don't know. I've never heard of that one.
All right. What would you... And the last two things I'll talk about before we head out for the day. Are there any role-playing games that you would not recommend to people? And what are ways that you
Tabletops?
should... Yeah, what are things that you should advise people against in the role-playing community?
I don't know about games that I would not recommend, but I feel like if there's one thing that I don't recommend, it's for like a first timer to get into like Pathfinder first or second edition.
Yeah.
They are incredibly in-depth systems with dozens of skills that all feed into like certain abilities.
Yeah.
And lists of feats that go on for like a mile. It's difficult to get into as a first timer, and I wouldn't recommend that.
Right.
When it comes to role-playing mistakes, I would not recommend, like, something you need to do when you're trying to role-play a character is trying to get into the mindset of the character while you're playing as them.
Right.
I've got, like, 4-ish characters going currently.
Yeah.
The character that I'm playing in your session with the lawful evil guy who's looking to, like, just consolidate power.
And become a demonic god.
Well, no, see, that's on you. You gave me that part. My character was just content with just becoming a noble initially, and then he got an opportunity. But I have that character. I have a lawful good oracle in a Pathfinder 2nd edition who literally, like, her whole shtick is that life energy is quite literally always seeping out of her at all times.
Yeah.
So she's a really good healer, but the more she uses the oracle like spells, the less she can get healed.
Yeah.
Currently, I'm at the minor curse. I cannot get healed. When I get healed, I take a -3 to that healing.
Okay.
Because it's half my level, and I'm level 5. And everything always rounds up.
Right.
But then there's the fact that, like, when I go into... I have another playthrough where I'm playing a lawful neutral character.
Yeah.
An automaton magus who's lived for, like, 6,000 years and values above all else order. He will support a dictator over a democratically elected leader if that dictator enforces order. Above all.
Dang.
And then I have a chaotic good rogue who is sort of like Robin Hooding.
Right.
For the people of like the Fae.
Okay.
It's a Kitsune rogue. Robin Hooding for the people of the Fae because the Fae treat anyone with lesser power as garbage. So my rogue basically sort of steal from the rich, give to the poor, help the people out.
Okay. Last two things. What is your take on the tabletop? Are you familiar with the TRPG marketplace that once existed?
No.
So before, are you familiar with the OGL of Wizards of the Coast?
I'm familiar with Games Workshop, not Games
Wizards
Workshop,
of the
sorry, Wizards of the Coast messing up with their OGL recently with the fact that they changed it to like, what's it called? Now anyone who's trying to do like content for D&D,
Create their own campaigns, sell their own
they can't
stuff.
like make that shit, or like they have to pay Wizards of the Coast or something for it.
Yeah.
It's a stupid ass system. They should keep it how it was because it was a system that worked.
And it was pretty
D&D
much
was incredibly popular as is.
That's
If
how
they didn't
Pathfinder
change
became a
it-
thing. That's
if
how
they
Pathfinder
didn't-
became a
exactly. If they didn't change it, if they kept the OGL as is, and when they were moving forward to 6th edition, it would be an incredibly popular system. But they changed it. And thus people don't want to move forward.
Yeah.
They want to stick with 5e. They want to stick with Pathfinder because they don't want to have to deal with that OGL, because if they want to share homebrew content, they're getting shafted.
It's ironic. Back in the early 2000s, when it was first released, we were looking at the good aspects of capitalism with all the diversifying of like different products, content creation. But eventually, 20 years later, they run this whole thing, and we're in the crap hole we're in now. And the last thing I'll say before we hang up, thanks for being on the show. And what would you say to all role players, and what would you encourage them to do going forward?
Get in the mindset of the character you're trying to be. And if you're going to say something, try and do a voice for it. Don't always assume your character has your voice. If you make a voice, you'll be able to separate and be able to imagine yourself as that new person. Thus, you'll be able to get a bit more roleplay out of it.
Cool. Thanks for being on the show, Omar.
No problem.
Praise Malak Ball.
Die. Meridia best.